Hello, and thanks for tuning in for my week 6 presentation on the facts of a subject that I found interesting to me. My name is James Hoagland. I've been somewhat interested in some of the information that I've been hearing, or some people might say conspiracy theories about what's been going on in the food and agriculture industry, and how that is affecting our environment through the greenhouse gases and the pollution of our water systems. So that's what I've done this week, was do some research on some of that information, and I'm here to share that with you now. It's basically an unbiased numerical research. There isn't anything here that would be trying to persuade you in any way or another. It's just facts, information that I gathered from the internet. A couple of the sites that I used, I did some research on CNN, had an interesting article, Scientific American, Time magazine, and a resource that I used from the University of Florida's Agriculture Department. They were all different. Interestingly enough, the documentation, numeric statistics that each of them presented tended to be somewhat different, which was a bit frightening. So there's apparently a lot of confusion going on as to the definitive source of where this information is coming from. There doesn't really seem to be one that I can tell. But anyways, I'll start off by saying that as far as livestock production goes, 30% of the surface of the world is currently being used to raise cattle, pigs, chickens, living livestock that we eat. A third of the water in our world, the freshwater supplies utilized for the livestock to drink. 1.3 billion people in the world are making money off of the production of livestock. 70% of the world's agricultural land is used for livestock feeding and grazing. Cattle, sheep, and goats are known as ruminants. Ruminants are able to eat grass and scrubland and convert that to energy, which makes them somewhat unique because they're able to live and thrive in areas that you couldn't use to grow crops or different animals that are non-ruminant would have to be fed. That's the difference between a ruminant and a non-ruminant. It has to do with the stomachs and how they're able to process the chemicals inside of the grasses into a form of energy. Although one of the disadvantages to the ruminant's ability to do this is the byproduct of a greenhouse gas known as methane. Methane is 25 times worse than carbon dioxide as a greenhouse gas. And it's known that ruminants can produce up to 20% of the U.S.'s methane emissions. Livestock actually consumes 5 times the amount of grain as the U.S. population, and could potentially be used to feed 800 million people. Food used to feed livestock accounts for 167 million pounds of pesticides, 17 billion pounds of nitrogen, and encompasses 149 million acres of land. One of the byproducts of the livestock food production is nitrous oxide. Nitrous oxide is a greenhouse gas as well, but it's actually 300 times more potent than carbon dioxide. One of the disadvantages of the non-ruminants, such as chickens and swine, pigs, are that they actually have to compete with us for food. They can't eat food like our ruminants can, that we can't eat. They have to eat corn and things that we could also be eating. However, the non-ruminants can actually live in places that we can't grow crops. Ruminants and non-ruminants could both do that, but we could still feed non-ruminants and they could occupy land that we couldn't use to grow anything anyways. Some of the methods that farmers have been used with some success is to rotate livestock and row crops. The purpose of that is for the livestock to eat the grass that grows on the land, and then the manure that they produce would fertilize the land. Some of the other things that livestock, such as cattle, has been used for is to eat some of the byproducts of citrus farming as well as corn farming for ethanol. These byproducts are sources of food for cattle that would otherwise become greenhouse gases. One of the major conspiracy theories that's come out involving the production of cattle is a paper that was produced by the Food and Agriculture Organization back in 2006 that stated that 18% of all greenhouse gases came from livestock. When you look at that in comparison to the transportation industry, it's actually higher than the entire transportation industry, which we've always been told is the primary method for greenhouse gas emission, which made it a very startling fact to hear. However, the Environmental Protection Agency disputed those numbers and came back with a number that it's only 3.3%, not 18%. And what they had found was that when they were doing the calculations on the environmental impact of livestock production, they also added all the byproducts of livestock production, but they didn't do the same thing with fossil fuels. And that's what skewed the numbers and caused it to look so much bigger than the other number. So in essence, the damage has been done. There's still articles and conspiracy documents and videos out there on Netflix that you can watch that are going to show you this 18% number. Their source being a source that's actually recounted that number and said that they're wrong. But these organizations are still getting shock value from these kinds of numbers that have been proven to be inaccurate. That's kind of a disadvantage. But some of the facts that are stunning are the Amazon rainforest being cleared out at such a huge rate. They say that up to 50 to 80% of the clearing of the Amazon rainforest is to create land for cattle grazing. Beef is obviously a popular choice for many people, and the demand for beef has exponentially grown to the point where it's been proven as an unsustainable food source due to the amount of resources it takes to produce a single cow. Some of the research has looked into insects being actually an excellent alternative to beef. However, consumers don't seem to be very receptive to eating insects for dinner instead of chicken or beef, even though insects have a very high protein content. The cost is good, they're very abundant, and their environmental impact is minimal. The power of the consumer. That's all. Thank you.